We'll just kind of see where this goes. All right, welcome everybody. I am here in the studio with the legendary, the man, the myth, the legend, also known as the Lion, Pastor Dan Smith. How are you doing, Pastor Dan?
I'm good, Zach. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm
glad we got to do this before you moved to Michigan.
I know, and it's crazy how it all worked out because you had mentioned that you had texted me about my podcast, and I was like, hey, we should chat sometimes. We should record an episode. And you're like, I'm actually going to be in Arizona in a couple of days, so it all kind of worked out.
Came for the funeral today.
Yeah, I came for the. And you mentioned it was a moving service.
He was a giant in my life, Herman Bauman, and was a conference president here in Arizona. He was our ministerial secretary in Oregon. He had a gift for making you feel special.
Yeah.
I was sure I was the favorite of all the 100 pastors, only to find out that other pastors felt the same way.
Yeah.
He just had that gift to make you feel that way. Grace-oriented and just a great human being.
Yeah.
I could tell you stories all day. Anyway.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm super happy to be able to have the chance to sit down and talk with you. Now, before we get started, one of our listeners, one of my I guess just an awesome listener that we have here in the community, named Alex Smith, put in the request and asked the following question: what is it like to have raised the world's greatest son?
We should start with that.
We're gonna lead with that question first as we kind of warm up.
He is a great son. I'll play that straight. Yes. So we've enjoyed raising him. You know, my wife got mad because when we knew it was going to be a boy, I shouted like, yes. And she said, why did you do that? What if it had been a girl? But I come from a family of boys. You know, I'm the oldest of four. And now we got two. And I knew what to do with that.
Yeah.
And we played all the games and taught them all the sports. We played hours of every sport in the backyard.
Yeah.
So for a long time, basketball I couldn't rebound the ball any higher than they were, so they had a chance.
Yeah.
And they got 3 points for every basket. I got one. Now it's the other way. And we just had a lot of fun. I've enjoyed raising those guys. And Alex is terrific. It's a delight to be with him. He was home last week, and we just got to be together and walk down the street for a couple miles every night. And you guys have been good for him over here.
Yeah, we try.
We're thrilled that he's been over here at Thunderbird with this group of young faculty members that you're a part of. And it's just a good deal.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
We're proud of all of you, Zach. We really enjoyed you guys.
Thank you. You and Mama Hilda are legends around these Thunderbird Academy parts. Now, one question I do have is I actually interviewed Alex about an experience that he had with you because Alex is a unique role here at Thunderbird where he coaches and he works with a lot of just young people, young guys and girls who their hope is to make it into professional sports. And Alex swore when he was in high school that he was going to become a professional baseball player. That's what he was going to do.
And basketball in the winter.
And the basketball.
Lakers in the winter and Dodgers in the summer. He was going to be the best of both.
So my question as a dad, how did you at what point did you break the news to him? How did you break the news to him? Because I know Alex, he's an idealist. When he goes for it, there is no such thing as no, he's going to do it.
When you think you're going to be the greatest player on all these teams and you can't start for your own high school team, maybe there's a clue there, So and then in college, the world begins to come around to you to say, there's a lot of good, really talented players who are tall and fast and amazing. So he's a good athlete, and he's a PE teacher, and he's good in all the games.
Yeah,
but he's not that.
Most
of us have to make our peace with we're not going to be president or senator tomorrow.
Right. Maybe he'll raise the next athlete or star player. That's so funny. Uh, that's so awesome. Now, you've made your debut here in Arizona because Alex is here now, so we have the opportunity to get to know you. But also, we have a mutual friend, Dr. Troy Anderson.
Yeah.
And I know you're familiar with him. You guys have been on some mission trips together.
Many.
And I know he loves your mission trips. As a matter of fact, when I first started pastoring, I was really nervous to do mission trips. I didn't feel capable of doing it myself until I came to Thunderbird Academy, and Dr. Troy sat me down and he's like, let's plan a mission trip. And I was like, I don't know the first thing about planning the mission trip. And he says, well, I have connections in the Philippines and Thailand because of trips he's done with you. And the Philippines was one of our Gensan. We went to Gensan. That was one of our first mission trips that we were a part of. But he just mentioned that he really enjoyed going on trips with you. Anyways, we were coming back from a trip. I won't say where we're coming back from, but the hosting organization was just having a difficult time finding work to keep us busy. And judging from what I know about your trips and Dr. Troy, and he is a worker, he likes to work. As we were coming back, he expressed some of his, I'd say maybe some frustration. And he said, and I quote, he said, man, if Pastor Dan was here, he'd make us do all kinds of stuff. He is and I quote, a lion compared to what you guys are doing. So that's kind of how the
that's
name,
where the lion
that's
phrase,
where the lion phrase come from. So anytime we talked about you, we always refer to you as Pastor Dan the Lion. So you have Dr. Troy to kind of thank on that.
It's really important. I didn't learn that until later, not the first time. But I've been on trips where the people in charge did not plan for people. We went from 30 or 40 to 100. The last time in Thailand was 136.
Wow.
And if you don't plan for that and you have people sitting around, we had one place where they didn't have the paint ready or whatever. So the boys were going to watch movies in the mall. Playing basketball with the Filipino guys. It's good connecting.
Right.
But you just told your family you were going to go do this great mission project for God, and you're going to build a church and a school, and you're going to do all this, and you're playing basketball at a court with some kids. And I find that it's a direct correlation you will feel about the trip to the degree of the effort you put into it. And if you're just kind of palling around and boy-girl stuff, and they're just teasing and running around, I've had all that.
Yeah.
And those were the ones that complained about the trip.
Wow.
But the people who work all day and are running the wheelbarrows and making it go, and then you want to finish the church, so you come back from 7 to 9 at night and put some lights up and get it done, those are the ones who say, that was a great trip.
Wow.
Because you got it done and you put your heart and soul into it. So because I know that, then I make sure when we get up in the morning, we're working.
Yeah.
And if somehow the paint doesn't show up or we don't have gravel or whatever we're missing, then we clean up the brush. Or we landscape and we go by plants and we put plants out here to make the place look great.
Right.
Or you go to the classes and you teach English to the school kids so they can learn American English.
Wow.
And we always...
Never a dull moment.
We always find it.
That makes sense.
And then the people feel good about the trip when they're done. Now, we build in vacation moments,
Yeah.
Out of it, we know that we get there Sunday. By Wednesday, people are tired, and you're eating different food, and it's hot, and it's tropical.
Wow.
So, okay, we're going to take a half day. We go see the tigers, or we go swim in the waterfall, or we do something.
Yeah.
And people look forward to that, and they come back refreshed. Sometimes we'll do 2 shifts. One will go in the morning while one group stays, so the house keeps moving, the church gets done. So we're not stopping the project, but we're giving people a break.
Wow.
But we've also learned, stay with it, finish stuff, see the walls go up, see a church that you can dedicate.
Yeah.
Even if they got a few things to finish up, you've got something to dedicate. And people said, where's the next trip? Let me come again.
That makes sense to be able to, because then if you go on a trip, you don't see anything that you've done. You kind of just did the same thing you've done back here at home. The whole point is to go and work.
I learned years ago, we were planning a camp meeting in Oregon, and with this Herman Bauman that we had the funeral with today. And there was a group that was responsible for the youth tent that I was working at to have community service.
Yeah.
Well, they lived there. I didn't live in Portland, and they didn't get anything.
Wow.
So what did we do? We went over and hosed down the driveway of the conference office. And no one felt good about that. That's not taking any poor people or helping anybody who really was suffering.
Right.
You weren't dealing with homeless or anybody. Something the conference should have handled on their own. See? So it was just make work. So I learned from that. I said, you need meaningful work that makes a difference, and you need to connect the dots. So when people know what they're doing, how this particular task fits in to make a difference. So when we're building a summer camp in Jamaica, I explained to them, next week, 500 kids are coming. And they're going to learn electronics, and they're going to learn this and this, and they're going to be out into the workforce with Christian electronic workers, or whatever they're going to learn, because we gave them a camp. And they got to have water, and we got to have water for them, and they got to have a camp, and they got to have a building. And we built water tanks, and we did that work. But we connect the dots so people know what they're doing matters in a big way. You're willing to do something small,
right?
If it fits into the big picture. But if no one paints that connection for you, then what did I do here? You know?
I mean, you made a beast out of Alex. He's a mission trip beast. We put him on a project and it gets done. He's got quite the manpower.
And those guys are proud of that now.
Yeah.
See? And they take their shirts off, you know. And
he does take his shirt off a lot.
They get a big this. And pretty soon and he's the main guy running the mixer now.
Yeah, he is.
And they know how to do it. I'll tell you a quick story. We got to General Santos in the south of the Philippines, and my leader, who'd been there 2 days, said there's a church that's been destroyed by a typhoon. I said, what happened? That dudes don't get it down there.
Yeah.
So we went out and saw it. You could see the outline of where the church had been, but that's all there was. And so my guys poured the slab. Now you have to wait 3 or 4 days for it to cure. So we forgot all about it. We went back to other projects. The night before we left, the president of the mission says, get dressed up. I'm going to show you something. I had no idea. I had no idea what we were talking about. So and those guys got dressed up.
Yeah.
All our Philippine barong, you know. And we drove in kind of light rain out here, and we parked. And here was a whole church. We poured the cement. But 5 days later, they had the walls, they had the roof, they had painted it, they had laid the block, there were pews inside, there were fans that were running, they had the lights on, and they were putting up the glass front of the church.
Wow.
They had worked day and night to give me a church. You should have seen the pride of these guys, knowing that they did that.
Yeah.
That they did that. And here's the finished church, and we took it on. And they call it the New Garden Grove Church because that was where we were from. And that changes your life when you're a part of something like that. You won't believe we built a church in a week, you know, from ground to the roof.
There's something powerful about having that tangible evidence right there in front of you. Hey, we built this, we contributed to this.
The metrics are there.
And look at now we're having a church here. You're able to measure it. You're able to see the work that you've done.
Very definable.
Yeah.
We're trying to always say, give people something they can see and say, we accomplished that while we were here.
That's huge. I mean, students are no different. I've worked with high schoolers for the past 5 years, and it's true. When you let students just do whatever they want and they're not focused and they don't really accomplish anything, they don't feel great about anything. Sure, you can let them sit in class and be on their phone all day or, you know, do whatever they want. But, you know, when you see the most sense of accomplishment is when they've actually put in the work or they've seen they're able to measure the success of, you know, the work that they put into whatever it is they're doing. So I would assume people are no different. Workers worth their wages. So
no question about it. Many times we've had the church leaders get there, and they'll tell you, we know you need to rest. You've been flying all night, you know, which we have. So you just rest a day or two, and then we'll get started. We're only here 9 days.
Right.
You know, we paid a couple $1,000s to be here. You know, so I've taught people, or we have 40 people, and they'll buy 3 rakes and 2 hoes.
Wow.
I said, my friend, we have 40 people. You know, don't do that. Buy plenty of brushes, buy plenty of rollers, buy enough equipment so everybody has something to do, because from the very beginning, we want to have this church done, this school done when we're done, so that you have it and we feel good that we did that. And people will say, I served God this week. You know, I did something for God this week. They already have their own life back home, but they came over here for that. And I said, it's up to us as the leaders to plan that out. And so I've got to tell the cement guy who Alex works with, I said, you got to have water, you got to have gravel, you got to have cement, you got to have the barrels, you got to have the shovels, you got to have all that. And the mixer, we need 2 mixers and we need 7 wheelbarrows. They'll bring 2. How many times I've had to do the first thing, go buy 3-4 more wheelbarrows. I got 7 wheelbarrow guys.
Right.
Don't make this small. Oh, Pastor Dan, you're a long ways. You haven't had much sleep, No, we came here to work. Give us the tools. So now we learned to put on the checklist. Have this stuff sitting there when we're ready, because we want to work and we want to be productive.
So you make sure you have the donations and you make sure you have the right amount of money for all these resources ahead of time. So when you show up, there shouldn't be any lack.
We are close to that.
We get close to it.
But we often find there's more gaps. And I've had to make phone calls from over there many times. We'll get over there and they don't have any money for the buses to bring the people to the meetings.
Wow.
No reason to have the meetings if people can't come. So give me the phone. I'll start calling people, or the tools, or not the gravel, or, some other component that's not there. So we tell people, count all the cost of this. Tell us what it really is. And then you go buy the material. We need a foreman from your language. We need a foreman from America. We need someone to go buy the materials and a truck to go do it so that we don't waste time.
What's the secret when asking for donations for something like this? Because I feel like, I've, just working in different environments, they say, money always kind of seems to be a challenge in certain circumstances. And, even going on my own mission trips when I was younger, trying to raise money for them. I mean, when you're a kid and you're cute and you get to go up front in your church and say, hey, I want to do mission work for God. And you're like in the 9th grade, you're a freshman in high school, people will they want to throw money at you because they want to support you.
Yeah.
But how do you guarantee it for like groups as large as you're taking? How do you manage that?
Well, I'll give you 3 or 4 tips quickly. You got to believe in the project. So I'm not very good at projects I've never seen. I know nothing about it. People say, Dan, would you help with this? I don't know anything about it. But I've been there. I've seen the people, and I come back and I tell the story. This camp in Jamaica is going to teach 500 kids for 10 weeks every summer to do this and this and this and this.
Right.
Or we're going to have a school. And when we're going to have a school, there's going to be 30 kids in that school times 4 classrooms. It's 120.
Yeah.
This year and the next year. And those kids are going to graduate, become doctors and nurses and pastors. And I sell the exponential progression from it.
Right.
See, I'll tell you a story from India. We got there. We had 20 of us, whatever. Big youth congress. 2,000-3,000 young people.
Wow.
And the director of the union division came to me and he said, we're going to have a Bible quiz and we want to give a kid a reward maybe to go to general conference in Toronto. I said, How much is that? $1,000. That's 20 years ago. So I said, I'll ask the group. The girls' dean came to us and said, we built a new dorm for 50 girls, but we can't move in because we don't have all the mirrors and all the stuff that it takes to be ready to move in. How much do you need? $2,000. So I go to my group and I said, we can help one kid go to Toronto for $1,000. Or we can help 50 kids be in a new girls' dorm and 50 next year and 50 the next year for the next 50 years.
Yeah.
Which would you rather do? It's easy. People want their time and their work to go as far and make as big an impact as possible. So I sell impact. I tell the story. I tell people we will be trustworthy with the money, because you've all heard stories about money going sideways somewhere.
Right, yes.
See? So I said, I will personally go over there. We tell everybody what we're doing and who we're doing it with so that no one person can funnel some off to the side.
Yeah.
I make it clear you can't be building your own house off to the side or, a new car over here.
Right.
This is for the kids.
Yeah.
And I lecture them about that. And so we have certain things that we do. And I have a track record now of being accountable for that money. I thank people for the money. You have to ask people for the amount that kind of fits what they can do.
Right.
Some people can do $1,000. And so we say, you do the classroom. But maybe you can't. You can buy the computer for the classroom for $250. You can buy one chair in the classroom for $25. So you scale what you ask for, depending on what you think they can really give.
Okay.
And you have a whole boys' dorm to do, and maybe there's 40 rooms, and it's $1,000 a room. Can you do one room? and you sell. That'd be your room.
Yeah.
You're responsible for a room.
Right.
We did a digital sign at Garden Grove Church. I said it was 160 hours a week. How many hours do you want to have your sign out there? You'll be responsible for that sign, shouting the gospel to everybody who drives by for an hour a week, $500. And you'll have the gospel going for a couple hours every week. You want Sunday morning time or you want nighttime? What time do you want? And you choose. So you sell a proportion of it that will fit what they can do. I got a bit of that sign out there.
Yeah. I want to give you my money right now.
Anyway, those are a few things. Thank people, bless them, make sure they know that the money made a difference. As soon as they give, thank you very much, appreciate it. It's going over here. Your money's on the way to Philippines for motorcycle for pastors next week.
Right.
So they know it's all going there. Nothing for overhead, nothing for fooling around. It's going to put the hammer on the nail.
I mean, you're trustworthy. People see your track record, they trust you, and you scale everything. You're strategic about it. You're not just
That's
asking,
all I got. Is my name and the brand that we are familiar with.
Now, how many of these mission trips have you organized? It sounds like a lot.
I knew you might ask that. I started in 97. I went with a group that did Mexico one time, San Luis Potosí, and I learned something from that. But then started going to Thailand in 97. So that's 24 years, probably one a year, sometimes two.
Wow.
In terms of a good sized group, it's usually one a year.
Okay.
Sometimes I've had to, I go more than that. I've been to the Philippines 30 times.
Wow.
But I'm just going by myself to speak at a week of prayer or, sometimes I do a crusade by myself. I'm not building anything.
Now, with going on that many trips or organizing that many trips, do you have any crazy experiences or crazy stories that kind of just stand out to you that, you could share?
I most of them are not. You remember the dedications of the churches, and you took this nothing church and a week later, 100 people are there and you're dedicating the church. Stuff happens, Here, Alex is here. I've been thinking about that. The first time I took him, when he was 15 by himself, just him and me.
Wow.
And he's my cameraman. So I'm in front of 1,000 people, and I'm up here preaching every night, and he's on a little stand. I mean, not just on the corner. He's in the middle of everything. And there's 30 girls around him getting his phone number and email.
That sounds like Alex.
And I said, I'm very happy for my son to be the star of attention here. But dude, I brought you here to be the cameraman, So finally, and of course the 30 girls are not listening to the sermon.
Right.
So finally I stopped everything. I said, could you tell my son to focus on the camera, So I'm sorry I outed him in front of everybody.
That's perfect.
But he learned a lesson. We're here for this.
Yeah.
After the program, talk to all the girls you want. But during that hour and a half, we're here for God. We're here for God. We came here to do this. We got a tax deduction for this money to do a mission trip. And while we're here, we're going to do that for the glory of God.
Now, is a big part of your interest in mission work the fact that you grew up in another country?
It certainly is for Asia. I wish I understood all that better. Why am I really comfortable in Asia? Is because I grew up there. I don't know the answer to that, but I am. Once I get over the jet lag, I'm really happy there.
Wow.
And if Hilda's there like she was last time, I can be there a long time. I'm happy to be a month living out of a suitcase in a hotel. So I love Asia. Vietnam is fantastic. Thailand, I speak the language.
That's crazy.
But Philippines, I know everybody,
Yeah.
and we love these people. And I'm happy. I enjoy the other cultures. I enjoy learning them. I enjoy learning the words of their language and their food. And they become my friends.
How long did you grow up in Thailand for?
I was there off and on 13 years.
Okay.
My parents were there 15. I came back to college.
And you
So we had a full vacation, furloughs in there a couple times. But from 4 years old to 17, that was our home.
That's wild.
I speak Thai, street Thai, restaurant Thai. I can get along phrases, but I can't put a whole speech together.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, growing up in another country like that and then coming back here to the U.S., what kind of impact did that have on your life and influencing you?
We lost something. When I played Trivial Pursuit, there's a whole section I know nothing about. TV shows, cars,
You don't know anything about that?
What are you talking about? But I grew up going all over the world, you know, and we would come back and sign in the Sabbath School program, Bangkok, Thailand, you know, that's where we're from. That's our home.
Yeah.
And we've been to Europe and we've been to Philippines and Japan and Thailand and Taiwan. We know these places. So we have a breadth and a world view. And people say, oh, I'm from here. I've been there.
Yeah.
The odds, if I talk to a Filipino anywhere in the world, I say, where are you from? I've probably been there or been close to their area. You've been there, you know? So it just gives you a broader view to be a world citizen of the world. There's a bigger picture, bigger worldview. You care about the church of the world. We are very proud of having grown up in Thailand. We're Americans, but we're happy that we grew up in Thailand.
Yeah. And now I heard there's a crazy story with a bee sting situation happening.
That?
I haven't heard the full story, but I was definitely...
Well, I'm allergic to bees. Alex was around the first time at home. I got stung, had to go to a hospital. So and it supposedly gets worse where you're anaphylactic shock, where you could stop breathing, your throat swells. So I've been carrying bee sting kits, you know, and I'm in Thailand. We finished our trip. We're in a place called Krabi by the beach. So I organized 17 to go out on the ocean on kayaking.
Yeah.
And I didn't take the bee sting kit because I didn't want it to get wet. We're on the water. Why would there be any bees out on the ocean?
Right.
Well, we got off on an island and I got stung. It hurt. I said, good enough. Where's my bee sting kit? I didn't bring it. Hour and a half from a hospital, and you can die in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So I was freaked. I said, okay, you could be sorry for this mistake. So we quickly got everyone together, back in the canoe, back to where the big boat was. That's in half an hour. Kids paddling like crazy, praying for me.
Wow.
And so by then I was still okay. By the end of that, I was covered with hives, and I'm sick. So then I talked Thai to the boat driver, got to go to the hospital, 45 minutes on a boat. Now I'm sick. I'm really sick. So I'm lying on a boat. We had a doctor, but no medicine.
No medicine.
And he was actually looking around to see what he was going to do a trick on me.
Oh my goodness.
Can you imagine on a bouncing boat with some bolo knife, you know? And so I'm just praying, God, help me stay alive, you know, keep breathing. I'm 50 years old, you know. Anyway, we got to the shore and I told the guy in Thai, I need a ride to the hospital. And he drove us to the hospital. 2 best words I've ever heard. We're here. So I made it the hour and a half and they gave me the adrenaline shot I needed. I stayed one night in the hospital. And boy, we're careful. A few times we've gone to ER, you know, when a bee is stung. We were here. We went to the golf tournament here and I got stung at the parking lot.
What?
And the boys and I
think
turned right around and drove right to the ER, urgent care, got my shot. Then we went and watched the golf tournament.
You went and finished watching the golf.
Because I got to be careful. Yeah.
Man, that's wild. Now,
I learned a lesson. I needed all those people to save my life that day. And I said, it takes a chain of people. Yeah. I needed the doctor, I needed the boat driver, and the car, and the people, and my friends, and my wife paid for it. So I brought them all up on the stage last year. And I said, I needed every one of these people. And I needed the right one at the right place. The kids could paddle the canoe. They couldn't give me the medicine, but they could paddle a canoe.
Right.
So, you know, to win souls, we got to go out there, and we got to make a human chain to bring people to God. Yeah. And I said, your place may not be that person's place. You do your spot. Hand people from here to here. And you help bring people a little closer to God. Be part of a human chain.
Yeah.
Anyway, made a sermon out of it.
No, that's perfect. I think Max Lucado says none of us can do what all of us can do. When it comes to ministry, it's definitely a community thing. It's not any one person.
That's a great line. One more time.
None of us can do what all of us can do.
What all of us can do.
Yeah. None
takes
of us
a village, whatever.
Yeah, it takes a village, definitely.
Ubuntu in Africa, they talk about Ubuntu, you know. You're not who you are except with the community together. Yeah.
It's huge, especially in church work or in ministry. Now, it's so funny that we're talking about mission trips because it was actually a mission trip that was a big part of changing my life. I'm a big believer in them. But when I went on mission trips growing up in the 9th grade, it was more of a preaching trip. It was called Share Him.
And you were a preacher.
I was a preacher. So I don't know if you know the Falkenberg brothers, but they
synchronizer on the computer.
Synchronize on the computer. So they would put us in a room, give us these sermons, and we just beat them into our mind. We'd repeat them, practice them over and over again. So of course we're staying in nice hotels. I went to Dominican Republic. I went to Panama. My brother went to El Salvador. I had friends go to Ecuador. And so they just send us, we're 9th graders. 15, 16-year-old kids, and we're preaching a full prophecy 2-week series, and it was life-changing.
How did the people respond?
Oh, I mean, I think they spoiled us. Of course, they'd pay for the Bible workers, and they'd pay for the community evangelists to make sure
But did the people appreciate it, having a kid give the sermons?
Oh, they loved it, man. My church was packed out.
You had to have a translator.
I had to have a translator. It was Spanish-speaking countries.
There are places that don't agree with that you're sending these amateurs.
It's true.
I've had people complain about that. I was in Ukraine, and they said, we're Europe. Don't be bringing us.
Yeah, I feel like that makes sense.
Look at the difference that made for you.
Yeah. Oh, it changed my life. I had just come off of, I was, grew up Seventh-day Adventist, and I had just barely gone to a summer camp where I heard about the love of Jesus. And, I was in and out of, I had substance abuse issues, heard about the love of Jesus. And then my friends invited me to go on a mission trip, and I had never read the Bible before. So I'm at home just reading the Bible over and over and over again because I'm told I'm going to have to preach from this, and I've never read it. And I don't even understand what I'm saying. But when they gave me these sermons to preach at the same time while I was studying them and preaching them, I was also learning from them.
Converting yourself.
Yeah, it was like I was giving myself a Bible study while sharing with other people. And it was in the jungles of the Dominican Republic where my first night, I get up and I preach on Daniel chapter 2. I was a doped up kid, coming off the street, coming off of drugs. Next thing you know, in another country, because I made some good friends in my Adventist school, and preaching on Daniel chapter 2. And it was just something clicked in my head, and I was hooked. And I was like, I want to do this for the rest of my life.
That's one of the perks of preaching, is that if it converts you too, and it's more real to you.
Yeah.
But that was Falkenbergs Dream. And Falkenbergs Dream is that if you would go over there, it would light your fire, because you can have success there.
Well, you can.
And then come over here and maybe make more of a difference here because you learned it there. So he had a double goal purpose of all that.
I think it worked. I hear it works well with young adults, but I saw it work really well with my youth group. These guys would come back on fire. And of course, then we'd preach these same sermons during our local church when Gary Venden, when he was having his prophecy seminars, we'd also have our own prophecy seminar with the youth, and we'd preach these same sermons to the youth.
How good is that?
It was a bit just it was fun. They definitely didn't receive it as exciting. It wasn't as exciting as doing it in another country, but still it translated over, and it was just a refresh. I don't know. It was life-changing. This is what made me want to be a pastor.
It's a great story, Zach, and I honor that. One of the great criticisms is that you'd be better off to send the same money that we use for all the plane tickets, send it over there, and let those people do it themselves. They're making $200-300 a month. Give them the money, let them go preach, and you give them the tools and don't go. But that leaves out all the stuff you just talked about. And it leaves out your experience, your connection with them. And you give more money because you see the need when you're there in person.
Right.
There's all kinds of other perks that are involved. Is short-term mission trip the answer for everything? No, it's not. I understand the criticisms. I know all of the criticisms. But it still has a role.
Well, and that experience translated over to me because then the coordinator, her name was Karen Glassford. She was amazing. She was also a missionary kid. She grew up, in Central America and did this all her life and ran mission trips like crazy. And she gave me the opportunity then to share my testimony at camp meeting here in Arizona. And so I had a 5-minute time slot to share my testimony, but you're giving a 5-minute time slot to a kid who just came off of a 2-week mission trip in the jungles of the Dominican Republic. And I was on fire for Jesus. And so I get up and I'm at camp meeting. There's to me, it was one of the biggest audience I had ever spoken to, 500, 600 people filling this audience, and they get to listen to my testimony. So I'm up there sharing, and I'm on fire. I'm preaching, and the treasurer at the time, Kent Sharp, he has to come up to me, and he kindly taps me on the shoulder, and he says, "Zach, we're gonna need you to finish up." He was like,
while you were talking,
yeah, while I was talking, and he said, "Doug Batchelor is supposed to be this. He's supposed to be speaking," and I was like, "Who's Doug Batchelor? I don't know who this guy is.
Why should I give up my microphone?
Why should I
give up?
This is my time. This was your mistake. You gave me the mic, so here I go." So I kind of finished what I was saying, and as I was kind of walking off the stage, Doug bachelor stops me. I don't know who this guy is. I didn't grow up Seventh-day Adventist. I don't even know if at this point I had been baptized or I was barely baptized. And, he shakes my hand and he says, "That's a powerful story, young man. You keep doing what you're doing.
Good for Doug.
You're gonna make a powerful preacher one day." And I get out the stage and people are treating this guy like a celebrity. "That's Doug Batchelor. Do you know who he is?" I'm like, I have no clue who he is.
But look at the power of that story,
Yeah.
my dear friend. So someone helps invest in your one plane ticket and has a little program, and maybe they get a 45-year pastorate out of you, and you impact generations of kids, and then you come back from seminary and you're pastoring or whatever God calls you to do, because someone invested.
Yeah.
And I don't think we lose many kids that we take on mission trips, and they get their heart for service. Our boys are committed to service, want to go on every trip there is, because that's in their DNA now. So my wife and I, let's say we take $100,000 of our net worth over many years and invest in their servanthood and their service ministry, and we get two young people that'll bless the work for the rest of their lives. Yeah, I just think it's a good trade.
Yeah.
And I just want to say this to you, my dear young friend, who are going to the seminary in 10 days or whatever it is. Don't you dare lose that. See? Add school, add books, add knowledge, add whatever they're going to give you in those 2 years. Please do. But don't you lose that fire for Jesus and for souls. I don't care if you do it my way or the way you did. Change your way. But don't lose your fire for God and for your souls that Jesus has given to you.
Now, Pastor Dan, how long have you been in pastoral ministry for?
Well, I started at 21 and I'm 68, so that's 47 years.
47 years. What made you want it? What was the deciding factor for you at such a young age that you're like, I'm going to give my life to ministry. This is what I'm going to do.
I never thought a lot about other options. I thought some. I was a good student. I was probably the top of the math side of it. Our family is good at math. My brother's a math professor. I have a niece is a math PhD. So I was good at all that. And I thought about, teaching math. I thought about PE. My sons are PE teachers. I love PE.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, there was a day very consciously where I thought, a dentist has a few minutes. He can pray with patients and have literature on his rack. Maybe on the weekend, he can teach Sabbath school or whatever. But most of the time, he's got to be drilling and doing whatever he does to fix people's teeth.
Yeah.
Everybody can be a witness for Jesus, but they got to do their blood butter of their work has to take up the bulk of their time. Yeah. I get to do God almost all the time. Yeah. And I said, it's the most efficient, fulfilling, rewarding thing I could find. Pastoring has hard parts to it.
Oh, for sure.
You know that, and you'll find it out again when you get to a church after seminary. But the rewards I have had for that. My father was a pastor. My grandfather on my mother's side, there's pastors everywhere. There was a call in school, come forward if you think you'd like to be called to a pastor. And I am immensely proud of that career.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's true that it's such a challenging occupation. I think it has a lot of challenges that come with it. I've had personal friends who have, left the ministry even at a younger age, or like, I don't know if I can do this. And other friends who've kind of, are struggling with it, or, they've been at churches that have been, just it wasn't what they were anticipating. They went on that mission trip. They experienced that week of prayer that was so life-changing. They, and then once they finally got involved with ministry, they found it way more challenging than what they wanted to be. Do you have any advice for, young people in ministry?
I'll try. It's a big topic to me, and I could talk a long time over your budget for this. Because ministry can be hard, and it is harder now, I think, than it was in some ways. I'll give you a couple of reasons why. Because everyone has giants to compare to.
Right.
50 years ago, you maybe heard a camp meeting sermon that was really good, but that's all you ever got. The rest of the time, your pastor is all there is.
Yeah.
There are no cassettes or CDs or DVDs or online, or there's no Dwight Nelson. Think of all the people that didn't watch their own church over the last year and a half in the pandemic, because look at how good Loma Linda or Andrew's programs are.
Yeah.
So now the local pastor, who's just doing the best he can with a little Zoom deal going on, lost all his congregation to those people because they're available.
Right.
So whenever a church opens up, who do they want? Well, let's put Dwight's name on the list, you know, and you know, because that's what they think their pastor ought to be like that. Well, there aren't very many of those giants around.
Yeah.
So that creates an expectation that is not realistic. I say to people, are you a giant in your field? Are you one of the greatest teachers in the world?
Yes.
Are you the greatest father and mother?
Yes.
You know? No. Well, why do you expect your pastor to be a superstar? See? So anyway, we got to be careful with that. I'm going to give you this. If you aren't careful to have success in ministry from pastoring and from soul winning, the criticism and the rest of the junk that goes along with it makes ministry not worth it. I have certainly had plenty of drama and headaches and critical people and difficult people and all of those things. But I've had this huge other side of soul winning where I baptized thousands of people, and I've pastored people, loved them and cared about them and meshed myself with their lives. I have friends all over the world. I mean, since I've got prostate cancer over the last month, maybe, the number of texts I've gotten from all over the world of my friends saying, Pastor Dan, we can't believe what we heard. We're praying for you. We love you, Pastor Dan. You know, that's rich. To sit at a table with Zach and Alicia and the Maradas tonight, those are my friends. But I have thousands like you around the world that I've pastored over my last 50 years of churches.
Yeah.
If you don't have that, that makes the criticism worthwhile. That makes the lack of boundaries where maybe you have to stay out another hour or two at night. It makes some of those things not worth it.
Yeah.
But I've enjoyed the pastoring. I love being a pastor. One of Alex's friends from his grade finished pediatric dentistry last week.
Yeah.
So the family said, come over, Pastor Dan. This is from 2 churches ago, from last year. I love these people. I mean, we have been together for a long time. I've gone to Myanmar with him. We had an hour and a half of just love and magic and food and storytelling and how you doing, Kim? What's going on? And we all stood in a circle and prayed together. You can't get off on that, you know?
Yeah.
But if you don't have those moments, if you didn't invest in those people, you didn't go to the graduations and to their birthday parties and hang out with them. I took those kids on Pathfinder trips and backpacking and stargazing in Anza Borrego. And now I get the payoff years later out of relationships that are immensely fulfilling to us. Does that make any sense to you?
No, that does.
But many pastors skip that part. See? And they just want to show up at church, manage the money, keep the processes moving, get the bulletin done. But they as soon as church is out, head home. You know, they want to keep their boundaries strong. Okay, there's an argument for that.
Right.
But you won't get the payoff of relationships with people. And I have now been getting the payoffs of those relationships. And my wife also. You know, if I just ask my wife, you want to go here? Too tired. But if I say, you want to go be with these people and have dinner with them who she loves? Yeah, I'll go.
Oh, yeah, I'll go.
I'm on for that because she loves those meals too. These are people that are precious to us.
That's powerful.
Does that make sense to you?
No, that does. There's a bit of a rosy, because I work with, I'm so passionate about creating, what we do here at Thunderbird Academy, or what I've done, especially with my student leadership, is to create excellent leaders, leaders who are on fire for Jesus, and to help mentor them, but also in my life to try to live such an inspiring life that I can be there for these, top-notch leaders in the moments that they need it. And so to me, I've created more, a buy-in that keeps it exciting for me because we're in this together as a community. It's not me alone, it's us together. What can we be doing? But there's definitely some challenges that go along with it. But it's those moments that you have that keep it exciting.
There are ways that ministry needs to be better, and the conference needs to negotiate expectations with church boards. And there's work that needs to be done in order to make the ministry. We have more night responsibilities now because we didn't have the school board meetings at one time. You weren't all expected to go to school board. The lay people handled that. Now we got to go to social committee, finance committee, this committee and that.
It's not as rosy. The idea is rosy, or what I like to tell my seniors is it's not always sexy.
There were no premarital counseling back 50 years ago. Now you premarital counseling, that's 6 sessions, hour and a half each. Those are 6 nights that now go from your schedule. Last year, I averaged 15 weddings a year.
Wow.
15 weddings times 6 nights. You do the math. That's 90 nights out of 200 working days that you had to do premarital somewhere. See, that wasn't around 20,
Yeah.
30 years ago. See? So there's some things that you have to manage, but the ministry is flexible. If you give some time here, you might make it up to yourself over here. You're not driving at 6 a.m. to be at an office from 8 to 5. You can maybe pay yourself back a little bit. So there's ways to compensate. So to me, I'm thrilled that I was a pastor, but I understand some of those challenges, and I'm retired because I didn't want to keep doing it until 75,
No, I think that's awesome. Now, speaking of the church and some challenges, I know you and I know Gary as well, and Gary Vennon and Jim Brower, I'm sure as well. The topic of women's ordination was a hot button topic. A year and a half ago, or when the general conference session was meeting to even vote on the issue. But I know you came out and you spoke on it, and I just kind of want to hear some of your the thought process that led you to vocalize what you believe.
Sure. I'll try to do this quick. I remember seeing an Insight magazine, which is our youth magazine back in the day, and here was a woman doing a wedding on the picture. I never even thought of it. It never come into my mind at your age, And so that began to make me think. As it hit the fan, I was probably early 30s when it began to hit the fan in my life and in the church.
Yeah.
And an article came out in Time magazine where Geraldine Ferraro had run for vice president and didn't make it. But the question was, how would you feel if certain jobs were just not an option? Regardless of whether you were good at it or not, you couldn't be an airline pilot, you couldn't be a doctor, you couldn't be the CEO of the company. You had to be the secretary for the CEO because you're a woman.
Yeah.
You take notes at the meeting because you're the woman. See, how would you feel? I said, well, I don't think I would like that. Well, that's the golden rule.
Do unto others.
Which trumps all other rules. This covers everything. It's the golden rule. I said, okay, there's the verses about women being silent and all of that. But what about this, where Jesus says, this is over everything?
Yeah.
Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Do I want to be limited because of factors I had no control over? I have nothing I can say about not having any hair. I don't have any choice about that. My son has inherited the same situation. This is the way it is. We didn't do something wrong somewhere to have that happen to us.
Right.
See? And so if a woman is tall or short or someone is this or that, there's all these different factors or discolors or where you're from. You have nothing to do with that. And now we're going to discriminate on you. That's wrong. That's just wrong. So I got to La Sierra. We were 6 pastors and a couple part-timers and 2 women. And to watch them cry, paid the same. They were being paid the same.
Yeah.
But not affirmed by the church in the way that the rest of us. Not because of their skills or talent or calling, but because of their gender. I said, I can't do that. Now, I did not know that I was going to be at ground zero. I didn't really know I was going to be there, but I'd made my call. I preached the first sermon at Newbury Park. When we had General Conference in New Orleans, I preached a sermon, made my call. I'm for equality. At La Sierra, someone made the decision, we're going to have to respond because of Utrecht. There was going to be a vote. We better be ready. We're a university church. So Utrecht voted no. Our board met the next day.
Yeah.
And we voted to do a local ordination. I won't go over all the months involved. But we decided that we were honor bound before God to live in equality as far as we could control. So we ordained 2 women. My signature is on their ordination card.
Wow.
Now they're both dead now. But that was a big deal. That was frightening and scary. But I'll be honest with you, these 2 boys. My boys were little at the time.
Yeah.
It was 95. That's 26 years ago. But I said, someday they're going to know what happened. And they're going to ask me, Dad, you were kind of around back then. What did you do, Dad? I said, how am I going to wish I could answer that?
Wow.
I said, maybe I better do the right thing here.
Wow.
And sure enough, the night the union voted, our Pacific Union voted, Woodland Hills, to affirm that we would ordain without regard to gender.
Yeah.
That was the vote. I came back to my office. Both boys came out, and we talked that through that night. And they wanted to hear my version of what had gone through. That was hard. We had a death threat in the house. They told me to get my family out of town.
What?
There was some heavy stuff. I had people stalking me the night we did the ordination.
What?
It was heavy stuff. People threatened me with my career. You're going to be worthless. You will never be transferred to another church for the rest of your life. You will never get another speaking appointment for the rest of your life. That's pretty heavy stuff when you're 41, 42.
Yeah.
Larry Garrity, who did this with me, had a PhD in archaeology from Harvard. He can go anywhere, but not Dan Smith.
You were committed.
and that was scary.
Yeah.
But Hilda said to me, Hilda did not want to be a floor nurse anymore. But she said to me, Dan, you do the right thing. And if you lose your job, I will go back to work as a nurse for you. And I'll take care of our family. Unbelievable gift from her to me.
Yeah.
To do the right thing. Anyway, I'm proud we did it. And
here you are.
the world church has not completely gone over yet, but we're within a couple hundred votes. And our union has now gone with it. Our conference now ordains without regard to gender. So we make progress where we can. And the people who don't agree are going to have to answer to God for how they feel. But that's where we stand. We want to discriminate based on factors that people had no control.
Now I know that's powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's crazy. Death threats. That's wild. But that support, I'm sure, from Hilda made
Scary.
Yeah, that made the difference. Now, as we close, you have a podcast called What Do You Think? You run it with your friend and colleague Jim Brower. Together, I read your description. You guys have over 90 years of ministry logged together. That's powerful.
It's more now, yeah.
And I listened to episode number 18, and it was called I think Jesus Only, or
Something like that.
And you guys were talking about the centrality of Jesus and the importance of grace in our ministry experience. And I really appreciated you guys opening up about your stories about struggling and dealing with perfection, your perfectionistic tendencies in your own personal life. And what you shared was very moving, and how you came to the realization, this has got to stop. It's exhausting. You can only do it for so long, and living this, trying to live the perfect life spiritually, that can be very detrimental to your mental health, your emotional health, and your story about playing basketball and
remember that night?
Yeah, that night. That was a powerful story.
Because I was going through divorce into singleness, and the illusion of perfection.
Yeah.
And this flawed person, and how was I going to make it? And I was losing my sanity.
Yeah.
I had to kneel down and say, God, I am losing my mind here.
Yeah.
Get me back on firm ground. So over time, and I can tell you all the different pieces that have factored into who I am, and the mentors and the books and all of that.
Right.
But to land completely on Jesus and Jesus alone. I talk about wall-to-wall carpeting. This is no copay, or, little $20. Let me do something here.
Right.
Don't dishonor Jesus with your little $20. Rick Rice said, the surgery is $200,000, and some rich person says, I'll cover that. You say, but let me cover $20.
Let me put in my $20.
So it's all Jesus. It's all Jesus. Does Jesus want to grow in us? Does Jesus want every bit of our energy? Sure. But none of that contributes to our salvation. We will never offer anything. Ellen White says that the great multitude, when they ask him, how did you get into heaven? Don't have a single thought of anything they've ever done.
Right.
Another place she says, the angels consider it treason against God to have your best works have any part of your salvation.
Wow.
It's all Jesus.
That's powerful. So I was going to say in closing, out of, all the messages you've ever shared, both international and domestic and local, if there was, one essential message that's been so important to your ministry, so important to, something that you're always trying to highlight, when you share, what would that be? And
Jesus alone.
Yeah.
Would be a big part of it. Our bulletin says grace, everyone, everywhere, every time.
Yeah.
It's always grace. God is good all the time. It's an old cliche. But most people who say it, they don't really mean it. They have stuff in their theology where God is not good, where God burns people forever, or when people die, God takes them, or whatever. They've got stuff.
It's in
Even
there.
their theology of the cross is not God is good.
Yeah.
And so I have spent the rest of my life trying to find a way to make God good all the time.
That's excellent. I mean, even the Bible says a little leaven spoils
it all.
You can't put new wine in old wineskins.
That's
so
right.
we try to hold on to the idea that Jesus is all, but at the same time, we have that. I think Ellen White says that Pharisaical tendency to hold on to just a little bit of what can I contribute to this whole thing. It's the illusion of perfection, the illusion that I can add something.
If you will get that 15, 20 years before I did, Zach, your life will be productive, and all the people that are listening to your podcast. We just do what we can, I don't know if 30 people listen to mine or 100, or whatever. But you hope that over time, I'll do an evangelism overseas, and my translator says, Pastor Dan, I will be a grace preacher and a character of God for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
People said to me this morning, I will never be afraid again. Whether I will make it to heaven. After I hear you, I'm never afraid of God anymore.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I've done my job.
If we can lift that to people, Jesus said, let not your heart be troubled. That's where we got to end. Come to me, I will give you rest. That's when we know you got it right, when it's rest in Jesus.
Wow.
Anyway, that's who we are. Thank you for letting me be with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
We love your podcast. I think I've listened to them all. Sometimes there's been 3 or 4 on the way back to California from here. We have loved being with you. God bless you guys as you go to Andrews. Keep it going. You should have a lot of good interview resources there.
Yeah.
We thank you for being our son's friend here.
Yeah, I tried.
And we will be interesting to see who you will be when you come back here. Will you a pastor or what will you be?
Yeah, we'll find out. I'm nervous and excited at the same time.
We look forward to being your friends on that side of it too.
Thank you so much, Pastor Dan.
God anoint your podcast minister. I really mean that, Zach. It's something special.
I appreciate it. And if you guys want to keep up with Pastor Dan, like I said, he has a podcast called What Do You Think? WDYT. On YouTube, you can find episodes under the channel Grace Force 2020.
That's sort of our brand.
Yeah, that's sort of your brand. So you look up Grace Force, you'll be able to find them on YouTube to see the video portion of the podcast. But you're also on Apple Podcasts. So if you just put in What Do You Think, you can find him there to keep up with him. And you and Pastor Jim Brower have some pretty intense theological conversations.
We have fun together. We like it when we have a guest. But I'm really happy when it's just the two of us. Maybe fewer people will watch because we don't have Sam Lenore or Larry Garrity on. But we did one this week, but both of us are old and both of us have some physical things right now. And we don't want to bore anybody with our personal stuff, but it made us think. You wrestle with your mortality and you wrestle with where is God in prayer. Everyone's saying we're going to pray. What's going to happen because of your prayer?
Right.
Those are all issues. Does our prayers make a difference with God? So anyway, listen to that one sometime. But definitely. I've enjoyed yours. I told you we want the one with the call porter girl again. So go to the next level.
You hear that, Luxury? It's
we enjoyed that. But I've enjoyed a lot of them. They're really good, Zach, and your connection. And I hope that Andrews will just give you another 50 great topics along the way.
Hopefully.
Keep growing, and God has an amazing mission for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Pastor Dan.